Hi. Today we will see how to create a multi-tone chat application. So we'll go through the description about what is a multi-tone chat application, and we will see what all setup required to do this, and what all project structure and other things that are required. And then we will go through a code walkthrough, and then we'll just do a small test on the application. A multi-turn chat application is nothing but you store the conversation history. So it is not like you send a request and then you get a response. It is not just one single request and response. So it stores multiple requests and responses which were previously sent and received. So through that, it is able to understand the context that this is these are the things the user was discussing with the AI. So that is called as a multi-tone chat application. It's so what we do is we get the user prompt and then through an API, and we store the user as well as the AI messages in a conversation history, and then we send the entire conversation history again through a prompt, and then we get a response back. So each time you send the request, you send all the conversation history what you had through the prompt, and then the AI will have the whole context, and then it will respond back based on what you were discussing previously. So when you are not sending the context, the LLM doesn't know what was the previous messages you were discussing. So it doesn't store those previous messages. So we have to send for each time you will be sending all the conversation that you had. So through this multi-tone chat application, we will be able to build a chatbot, a virtual assistant, or a customer support tool. We can build many things like that. This is a brief introduction about the multi-tone chat application. So now next we will see what all things we require from technical standpoint to create the application. So we will require an IDE. So I'm using Visual Studio Code to create the application, and I'm using Python as a language to create the application. And we will be connecting to Microsoft Azure, and then we will be accessing the OpenAI endpoint. And we will be using FastAPI in Python to create the API. So here you will see what is the project structure. So we will have a configuration module and then a service module. So in the configuration module, we will store all the credentials, for example, the API key, endpoint, model, API version from the. These are things which we get from the Azure OpenAI. So when you create something in a resource in Azure OpenAI and then deploy a model, you will get all these credentials. So we just write all those credentials in a config properties, and then we create a config loader through which we load the config properties. So the chat service is the main core application where we query you send the user prompt to the LLM and then get the response back. So the crux of this application is the chat service class, and then we have a fast API implementation. So that is where the API endpoint is defined, and then that is where the chat service is invoked. And this is how the the directory structure would be. So there would be an app.py. This is where the endpoint we are going to define, and we have the config and service module. So the config module contains the config.properties, which has all the credentials, and config py is the config loader, which loads the configuration, whatever we configured in the config.properties, and makes it available to the application. And chat service is the core thing which queries the LLM and then gets a response back. So this is how we are doing. And for implementing this application, we need these libraries. So we need a fast API for the API and defining the API endpoints, and then the UVCon and then OpenAI for accessing the LLM. These are all the rest of the things that we are required for basic creating a basic application. And once we do all this thing, and then for starting, we just need to execute this command to start the application. So we will just go to the Visual Studio Code, and then we will see how to. I'll just do a walkthrough on the code which I have written. So this is the Visual Studio Code. So this is the IDE which I'm using to write the application. So I'm using Python. So this is the structure of my application. So this Azure OpenAI chat is a directory which I created. under which we have the source directory. So this requirements.txt is nothing but which contains the libraries which I am using for this application, and readme is just a readme of what this application is about, and this env is and I'm not using it, so I'll leave that. So here if you see, like, these are the modules I'm using. So I'm using only config and service, the remaining I'm not using. And this app.py is the main method, is actually the main class where we are defining the endpoint. So we will start from here. So the FastAPI is a library I'm using to define the endpoints. So I'm just initializing this library here first, and then I'm initializing the service which I have created. And this is the chat endpoint which I have defined. So this is defined as a multi-turn chat. So this is the endpoint which we can access it, and I'm using a post request for this. So here this method will take a request from the user. This request is in a JSON format. So I'm just reading the request, and in the request I am looking for a prompt key. That is a value which will have the a request what the user is sending. So I'm getting that. So once I have the user input, I'm just validating if the user has sent any prompt or not. If it doesn't send any prompt, we don't need to do anything. If the user has requested to do something, then we get the user input, and then I'm invoking the chat completion service from the chat service. So if we go inside this method, so here you will see that I'm importing the OpenAI library, and I'm importing the Azure OpenAI from this. And then this is for loading the configuration properties. The chat service, so what it is doing is, I'm first initializing all the configuration I'm having here. So all the configuration is coming from here. So this is where I have defined the configuration. So here I'm putting all the Azure related configuration details, and this is not required for the chat. I'll explain you what is this thing. And this is the config.py where I am loading all the configurations. So whatever I have shown you in the config properties, I'm loading all this. So once I loaded all this thing, and this is where I am, the main application is here. This is where I'm sending the request to the LLM. So here what I'm doing is, so this is where I'm sending the request. So whatever the user input we are getting, that I'm sending it here. So this is not simply one user input I'm sending. So we need to store the conversation history, right? So what we are doing is, whenever we get the user input, we are storing that. So this conversation history, I just created a list here. So in this list, what I have done is, I'm just initializing this list with a system role message. So the system role message is a constant. It is like you are a helpful assistant. I'm defining it here initially. And each time when the user is sending a message, this user input will get appended to this list. So the first message will be there for every single iteration, and these messages will be appended each time the user is inputting it. So for example, now we got the first user input, we appended that, and then what I'm doing is, so we cannot have conversation history like an infinite conversation history. So for this example, what I have chosen is, I have given a maximum threshold of 5. So I'm storing only 5 conversation histories. I'm not storing more than 5. So that's what I'm doing. If it is more than 5, I'm just deleting the conversation history, which is the oldest one. I'm just deleting it. I don't want to delete this one. This has to be there constant. That is the reason why we are deleting from 1 to 3. So it leaves the index 0, and then it deletes 1 and 2. So only those things are being deleted. So if you see here, what is happening is, actually there are 3 roles here. One is the system role, another is the user role, another is the assistant role. So once you send the request, you're going to get the response, and this response is containing the response which comes from the LLM. So this is the bot reply which you're getting. I'm storing that also in the conversation history. So I'm storing the request as well as the response. The request what the user sends as well as the response which the LLM is sending us back. So I'm storing both. In each time I'm storing a pair of request and a response. So that is the reason why if you see here I'm deleting a pair of request and response here. I'm not deleting just one request. I'm deleting a pair of request and a response. That is the reason why it is showing one. So here I'm deleting index 1 and index 2 because those are the previous index which we don't need actually. And so each time what happens is like this conversation history, whenever it is built, when it is going beyond 5, I'm just deleting it and then appending the rest of the things. So this is how this is being done. So I'm even checking here. So this is for edge cases actually, but it's doing the same thing. The core thing is I don't want to have more than 5 conversation history. That is what I'm trying to do in this logic. So once we so we are just doing this thing maintaining internally, and once we get the response back, so we are just returning back from here and then going to the endpoint and then sending the response to the caller whoever called this thing. So this is so the I hope you understood this one. So the conversation history we cannot keep infinite. We have to have some limit somewhere. So I'm storing 5 conversation history. For example, if it's a production grade, maybe you will have maybe 100 or 500 based on your application. So you might have to decide how much you want to store. You cannot store infinitely. The other issue is there is a token, so you cannot pass, for example, more than if you're storing more than 10,000 messages, you cannot pass every all the 10,000 messages. So there is a token limit for each model. So you have to check what is the model limit, the token limit for each model, whatever you're deployed. And then based on that, you need to make sure that you're not sending more than that. So that is a multi-tone chat. Now let me show you how to run this thing. Let's run this application. So once you start this application, it's going to say that this application is running on this host and port. So now we can access this host and port from either front end or Postman. So for this, just for demo, I'm not using a front end. I'm just going to use this from a Postman. So I have defined the endpoint here. So I have defined the endpoint here. So if you see here, it is showing the URL, whatever we are using here. I'm using that URL here. And the endpoint, what we defined here, the multi-tone chat, and I'm using that endpoint here. So this is how we craft the URL for Postman. And I'm using a post request because I've defined here. The reason is because we are sending a request, a body we're sending. So we have to choose a raw JSON and then we have to define an object here. So inside the object, I'm defining a key value pair, which is nothing but the prompt and then the value, which is just a message from the user. I'm just sending, hi, how are you? So now if we execute this thing, it is going to send, this is the response which we are getting. So it's saying that, hello, I am just a computer program, so I don't have feelings, but I'm here and ready to help you. How can I assist you today? So this is the response which we are getting. So now let's test the multi-tone chat functionality. I'm asking like, suggest some places to visit in Calgary. Okay. I'm just asking, suggest me some places to visit in Calgary. So it is giving me, these are the places I can visit in Calgary. So Calgary Tower and Calgary Zoo. So it's showing many places to visit. Now I'm asking, suggest some places to stay here for a weekend. So I'm not specifying which place I wanted to stay because have been conversing with it. So I hope the application is able to remember my previous conversation and then it's going to respond back saying that I am looking for something for staying in Calgary. So it should take it automatically. Let's see what it is doing. So if you see, it has understood that I am asking about Calgary. I didn't mention here anything about Calgary, but based on our previous conversation, it understood that I'm talking about Calgary. So it's saying that Calgary has a range of accommodations options to suit different preferences and budgets. Here are some suggestions. So it is It is giving all the hotel names and everything, where to stay. So this is how the multi-tone chat is working. If I'm going beyond 5. So for example, I'm asking what is the weather in Montreal, or it doesn't know that. What is the best time to visit Montreal? So it is giving Montreal now. So first I was asking which place to visit in Calgary, and then I asked about which play where can I stay in Calgary, and now I'm asking about Montreal. This is my third message. Okay, now I'm asking who's the Prime Minister of Canada. So it is just giving a Prime Minister of Canada. Now, if I'm asking where did I want it to stay, do you remember? So now till this point, it is knowing that I know this is where it was asking to stay. So it is remembering all these things. So let's see, let's give some more things. What is multi-tone chat? I'm just diverting the conversation. So it is going to talk about what is a multi-tone chat, and I'm saying what is a single tone chat, and I'm just asking what is a RAG, and I'm asking what is a agent. I'm asking what is the best tool to edit videos. So it's giving what are the best tools that are good to edit videos, and then so I'm asking what are the gears required to record a video. So it is given. So now we have completely diverted the topic from what I was asking previously. Now let's ask where did I want to visit? Where did I to visit? Okay, let's ask. So it is saying that I don't have any information about this thing. So it has completely forgotten. So where did I want it to stay? So yeah, so it has completely the whole memory. It doesn't have any memory about where I was asking previously about Calgary and those things. It has completely forgotten those things. It's because I'm storing only 5 messages and the rest I'm deleting it. So I have just diverted the topic and then moved to I'm asking about AI agents, RAGs, and everything. And so the other rest of the messages has gone slowly. So it doesn't know where I was talking about. So that is the reason why it is not saying anything about the previous messages. So this is how the multi-tone chat is working. So this is a simple application which we have created. This could be made like a we could add more things and then we could make this as a much more complex application. But this is like just a beginning to create a chatbot or a virtual assistant. So we can add more context and then we can create a customized chatbot or a customized virtual assistant for your specific needs. I hope you like this video. So if you like this type of content, please let me know. And if you want to make any other type of videos, any other content you want to cover, please let me know in the comments. And if you like this type of content, please like, subscribe, and share. And thank you so much.